Hello friends, it's Julia. I'm here today to share some Christmas cards that I put together for this coming Christmas, December 2016. Sorry, I had to stop and think about the date. Anyway, I'm using this My Mind's Eye 6x6 paper pad to create the layouts. And initially I had started narrating this video live as I was making the cards, but it turned out it was going to be 50 minutes long, so I thought I would shorten it some. And I'm just showing you that I used a piece of pattern paper that I really liked to cut it down, and then used a branding strip or border strip to add a little extra texture to the card. The card bases are just out of my stash, and I believe they're Paper Studio brand. The envelopes are from a kit that I bought from Stampin' Up! A couple of years ago. Anyway, I'm debating whether I'm going to use the little reindeer washi tape or just the green thick twine that I have. And I'm showing you, I'm just using some scraps here, and I'm going to cut them down to 3 inches wide because that's the amount of space for my pattern paper, and I'm going to glue my pattern paper onto those scraps of paper. And I'm doing this because when I put the twine on there, I want the twine to go under them, and if I just had the pattern paper on there, then it would give it a funky dent or too much texture on the edges. So I find that putting the pattern paper on scrap pieces of paper and then lifting that up or putting the twine under that is not a big deal. So I'm cutting down those scraps to go on the card fronts, which are, I believe these are 5.5, 4 1/4 by 5.5. And so I'm wrapping the twine around, and it's from close to my heart, and it's really thick twine. It came in a card kit. I can't remember if it was last Christmas or Christmas before, but I used a little bit of it to make some of the cards, and then I haven't used any more of it. So I put it in my Christmas stash kit that I made last December 2015. Made a few layouts, and I think I used it a bit, and I've used it on Christmas cards several times this year. And if you haven't seen my blog, which is juliesjournaloflife.blogspot.com, I post cards on there, Christmas cards that I make. I make about 5 Christmas cards a month. And I missed making them in April, and so these are actually the Christmas cards, or I'm sorry, I missed making them in March. And so these are actually the cards that I put together for March and April. And it's going to be more than just these two. And you see a lot of embellishments over to the side. Those are actually embellishments that I have laid out for a different kit that I'm working on. I just kind of sort of stick stuff over to the side and then continue working with whatever I'm pulling out. You can see I pulled out a couple of little tiny doilies that I got at Michael's this past year. And then these embellishments that I pulled out, they're like chipboard embellishments, and they're raised up on pop dots. I peeled those pop dots off because there was just one pop dot in the middle of it, and it just really didn't give it the right feel. If it doesn't sit right on the flat on the doily, then it causes the doily to buckle and stuff underneath it, and I don't like that. So what I do is I add those down, and then I start to add those down, and I remember, oh wait, I've got the twine on there, so I've got to put on a little bit of foam adhesive to give it a little bit of lift so that those doilies sit over the twine. And that's what I'm doing here, just adding a little bit of foam dimension to the back side of the doilies. Still working. I still haven't attached these down to the card bases, and as I'm going through, I'm thinking to myself, because that twine is so very thick, I'm considering adding some foam adhesive to the back, but I think no, I'm going to go ahead and give it a shot with some adhesive and just stick it straight down and see if it'll work that way or if I need to go back and add some foam adhesive. And it's working okay, so I decided to just go with it. And you're seeing the back side of that solid white cardstock that I'm using is actually pattern paper that I don't care for, that came in a pattern paper pack. I think it's an old Die Cuts with the View pattern paper stack, and it was just some sheets in there that I didn't care for, so I keep it typically out on my scrap table and I pull from there to use those pieces so that I don't waste them completely. I want to be able to use everything that I hang on to in my stash, and so that's one way of doing it. So here I'm pulling out some stamps, or a stamp, a Close to My Heart stamp, to stamp the sentiment on the inside of the cards, and I actually stamp the inside as well as the envelopes. And I've got this ink from Close to My Heart. It's called Barn Red, and it's a beautiful red color. I'm debating the little stamp set comes with the sentiment that fits inside of a circle, and I'm debating if I want to add that, and then I changed my mind. I don't. I wanted to add one of the little birds that came in the stamp set. And there I am, I'm stamping him on the front of the envelope as well. And so I go through this whole process again on the other card, and I just change the sentiment on it. Just pulled out a baby wipe in order to clean my stamps. I've been finding that those are a little bit more convenient to use, if you will. Sometimes pulling out my stamp cleaner and the pad and the cleaner, and then making sure that the pad stays wet enough to keep it clean. I think there must be an alcohol base in that, because it feels like it dries up almost immediately whenever I put any down, and I can just spray the heck out of that pad and it just still feels like it's dried up before all of my stamps get cleaned or I finish doing what I'm doing. So a baby wipe will typically last, through a stamping session if I'm, doing like a couple of cards like this. So it'll last me through here. And so as I'm going on, and I don't have to take up a lot of space with a baby wipe. I can just toss it in the trash and be done with it, and then when I get to my next stamping session, then I can pull out another one. And I don't know, I guess it's just whatever your preference is. Right now mine tends to be using the baby wipes. And you can see I've got the insides done, and I'm not quite happy with just the stamp sentiments. I've started embellishing a little bit more on the inside of my cards by adding washi tape or little paper strips. Sorry, I pieced this video together and that one cut off there. These are a couple other card bases and envelopes that came from that Stampin' Up! Set that I bought a couple of years ago, and I think it's probably 3 or 4 years old. I bought it on a clearance sale from Close to My Heart, or I'm sorry, from Stampin' Up! And so when I got it, it was already outdated, which doesn't hurt my feelings at all. Going back through this 6x6 paper pad and looking for the right pattern paper to add down, because I pulled out a couple of 3x4 cards and some tags and things that I thought that I might use on these two cards. And what I did was I went through and I believe it was Mojo Monday. I went through and used a bunch of their sketches, which makes it very easy, and I did 10 cards altogether, 2 of each of the sketches of the 5 different sketches that I pulled. And I can't, it's just amazing to me that it's already June, and or going to be June, and I have so many cards already made for Christmas. It's really nice to look up and see in the box where I keep my Christmas cards as I make them, seeing that filling up, because it used to be I would wait till December and then start making my Christmas cards. Then that was all fine and great when in the job that I had before. I was a registered nurse, and so I could schedule my days where I would work, and typically we work 3 12-hour shifts a week. And so I typically always schedule my days together where I would work 6 days and then I would have 8 days off. And so that was pretty convenient for doing big craft projects like that, where I could do, 50 cards in a couple of days. I knew I had the time, and I would typically have the energy because I wasn't working at the same time. Well, that's not the case any longer. I've changed jobs, I've advanced in my career, and so now I work Monday through Friday, typically 8 to 5. So as you can see, I pulled in an additional piece of cardstock that wasn't in my kit, and it's just a red. On one side it's got a metallic glaze to it. The other side is a very dark red, almost like that barn red from Close to My Heart. And so I used that, and then I took some of the pattern paper pieces and put on front of it, the ones with all the little packages is from that 6x6. I used 2 sheets to cover each of those cards. And I'm going through the die cuts and the embellishments that I have that match these kits, or these papers in that 6x6 paper pad. I'm also looking at my stamp that I pulled out that I want to use, debating on if I'm going to use it. So I'm still going through. Those are some really cute little tags that are, they're like library pockets. And so I thought, how cute would that be just to use them on there for just embellishment on the front of the card. And so I'm looking at what I want to stamp on there and how it will fit. And down on each of the bottom of those little book pockets are, it says, it's got the image on there, and then it's got to and from down in the corner. And it doesn't hurt my feelings to stamp there. It doesn't matter that little saying is there. It's not going to hurt my feelings for that to be on there. And whoever gets the card, I'm sure they're not going to care that it says to and from on there. And I'm showing you, make sure that you use your little stamping pad. When you use the Close to My Heart stamps, it comes with a little foam sheet inside the stamp pack. And if you use those under whatever image that you are stamping, you typically will have better outcomes than if you just stamp on a flat surface. Sometimes you don't get good solid even pressure even when you mash in the center of the block. For some reason it just doesn't happen, and so you get better coverage on the stamp if you use that little foam pad behind the paper that you're stamping onto. Here I'm just stamping into the center of the card on the inside, putting the sentiment on the inside, and I'm stamping the same sentiment, I believe, on both of those. And then I'll probably go back and add a little extra embellishment on the inside. And that I stamp, it's a little stamp that I got years ago, and it says "Made Especially for You" by Julia Gully. And I ordered it from an online Etsy store, and I'm thinking about getting a different one, but I haven't ever ordered one or haven't found another one that's interested me enough to order it. So I'm looking to see if I want to add some brads or some what size, because I have 2 packages of brads out. I'm looking to see what size brad I want to use in that little book pocket. Has like a little tag top, and so it's got a little hole up there, and so I used just a couple of different brads that were in my kit to embellish them. And it's always good when you can use brads, on any project. I don't know why I continue to buy brands when I have so very many in my stash. But I do. It's just one of those things. They're cheap. What can I say? I typically buy them at Tuesday morning anymore. I don't often buy brand new ones. And here I'm just adding a little bit of washi tape to the inside. And it's presents. The washi tape is full of presents. And I'm adding a second washi tape that says Merry Christmas. I love decorating the inside of my cards with washi tape because it allows you to use some of these washi tapes that you buy that you might not use very much of it on a project, but yeah, you can get way more use out of it if you're decorating the inside of your card with it as well as the outside. And you can see I have these bows in my stash, and so I just add a couple of those onto the front of those little pocket pages as well. And I think it had like foam adhesive on it, so it made it stand up a little too tall, and so I just peeled that foam adhesive off and added some ATG tape on the back of it, and it stuck right down. Here again, I'm starting with a couple more just plain white card bases, and I have an envelope from the kit from Stampin' Up! That I bought. That is a piece of foiled paper that it was an 8.5 by 11. It's a gold foiled paper that I ran through an embossing folder, and for some reason it was a pretty thin piece of paper, and it just shredded that the in between the zigzags, in between the chevron zigzags, it just shredded that paper. And so I'm thinking to myself, I'm not completely giving up on it. I'll just, glue the entire thing to the cardstock base, and I put a lot of glue on there. And so now I'm just lining it up to make sure that I get the image all the way across the top, and I really mash it down good. I want to make sure it's straight and centered, and so I mash the hound out of it, trying to get that to lay right and to look nice on the front before I add additional embellishment to the front. And I pulled out a close to my heart ruler that has a metal edge on it, and a straight razor and an X-Acto knife, and just went and cut that off. I thought about trying to cut it off in my trimmer, but I worry that it would catch it and cause it to shred, because even using the X-Acto knife, the way that that stuff was falling apart, it was just, yeah, it could have, and it did. It actually tore into the paper a little bit on one side, but it's not very noticeable. So that I used as that great texture I used on the background, and so I cut down another piece of that 4x6 pattern paper, or I'm sorry, 6x6 pattern paper, and I'm looking at the pocket page card that I have out. I wanted to see, I have this We Are Memory Keepers corner punch, and I wanted to see which one would stamp more like that pre-printed card. And so it's the 1/4 inch instead of the 1/2 inch, and so I corner rounded the one piece before I added the card down. And I've got a gold glitter Christmas tree out from that Stampin' Up! Kit, and I was going to use it with this, but I didn't. I don't think I did. I pulled out my gold Encore ink, and I'm just priming up a stamp there, one that I've never used before. And I just showed you, you can rub it on your hand, or you can use one of those rubber scrapers. And so just run it across the image, and it should season the stamp where you get a good image the first time and every time. And I'm putting that gold ink down, and sometimes you have to let that gold ink sit for a while before it gets a really good image. And I stamped it in gold and you couldn't see it, so I stamped my sentiment in black and went over the top of that, and it gives it a very faint grayish tone. It turned out really pretty. It's hard to see on camera, and I think when you look over on my blog, you'll see that it's a much better image than what it originally looks like here. And it's got that gold shimmer to it, which is lovely. That ink, I do believe I bought it from Stampin' Up, and it does stamp true metallic gold, and I just love it. And so I'm going to stamp with the gold ink the sentiment on the inside, and it stamps beautifully. Just beautiful. And it gives it that very soft metallic look to it. It's just fabulous. I need to see if they have a re-inker for that. That's always my fear when I get such a lovely color that I love, that I typically want to use just around the holiday time, because when are you going to use like gold metallic stamping at any other time? Come on, I mean, I'm not. To me, that is part of the holiday thing, is that you stamp with these great colors and things, the metallics, around that time of the year. Anywho, so I'm just fiddling around here. Going to add the pattern paper to the front, and then I'm going to add that journal card. I'm checking to see if it's dry before I flip it over and down on my mat there and add it on. Oh, and I'm playing with that tree from Stampin' Up! To see if I want to add it down. And so I'm adding a little bit of dimensional adhesive to the back. Excuse me. And I add it there. I didn't remember that I did that. And I'm just showing you that when I closed that card, I had a little bit of bleed over on the gold ink, because it does take a little bit longer to dry. But yeah, I'm not going to stress over it. Add some more washi tape. On the inside, I think I used a gold foil washi tape. And then I'm looking, I've got these close to my heart gems that are multifaceted on the top, and they're gold, and so they work really great here. They just give it that little extra touch. They bling it up nicely. And so another card is done, and I'm thinking, oh, I didn't stamp the front of the envelope. So I'm going back to look to see what I have. I'm pulling out the same stamp set to see if it works, or if I need to pull out a different one. And I'm going to go for the gold ink again, because, you know, why not? And you can see I forgot to add that that foam pad behind it, so I went through and went back and added that in. And I'm going to stamp with the gold my name on the back and call that one done. Oh, I thought this was the video where I made the 10 cards. I guess not. I only made 5 on this video. So there's all 5 that I created this month, for the month of March. I guess it's April and May that I put together. So anyway, thanks for sticking around. Thanks for watching my video. And if you make your own Christmas cards for Christmas and you film that process, I would love to see them. Please leave me a link down below, and I'll see you on the next video. Have a great day.